Peter Stahl is here at Tower Grove Park in St. Louis, Missouri, with a little bit of a demo day demo of his new linear bikes. Go ahead, Peter, let's talk about it a little bit.
So the first thing I wanted to show you on this is our new seat mount. The seat mount is taller than the old seat mount, and it means we have smaller brackets on the bottom of the seat. So that way, because the seat pivots here when you adjust the recline, you can set the bike for your leg length and adjust the recline, and it doesn't affect your X-seam near as much as it used to. So that's a small victory. It also is slightly lighter than it used to be, and it's stiffer. In our fatigue test, we put a piece of beam in the fatigue tester, clamped this on top of it, and then we took two of these brackets and bolted them onto a piece of oak 2x6 and put the hydraulic cylinder on top of that, and we pushed 1,900 pounds up and down on it 100,000 times, and nothing happened. So well, actually these brackets dug into the oak a little bit, so, and they're good, so we were happy about that. The other change from the bike you saw at the show in Cincinnati is the front joint is a little bit different. It works the same, but the front joint was on the outside before, and it was kind of ugly, scabby looking. So now we've moved the joint inside so that the outside is just this one curved cut here, and that's it. You just slide the quick release down and lock it, and you're done. But there's a plate that goes inside the frame, two of them inside here, and that's where the joint is. So it's not external, and you don't have to look at it, which is nice. So here's the linear limo, fully disassembled and folded and ready to go together. So let me just show you all the steps involved in folding it. I'll strive for clarity rather than speed this time. So the first step, I'll unfold the front joint. You pull the fork down and then get the cable out of the way and slide the quick release down in this slot and tighten the quick release. And that's done. The next step will be to do the rear frame, which is pretty similar. The joints are just actually about identical. So we'll unfold that, slide the quick release into the slot, and lock that in place. Now the frame is fully assembled. So the next step, let's put the back wheel on next, I guess. Now the chain was hung on the chain hanger here. That's so that when you fold the bike, the chain stays taut. Notice the chain is actually still on, well, almost on this sprocket. About half the time it comes off when I drive down the highway, but this time it didn't, so that's a plus. So I want to remember to unhang the chain. You can get an idler there. If you're going to fold it frequently, then you don't have to unhang the chain when you unfold the bike, but I don't have an idler on this one. It's the same bracket that holds the bolt, the hanger. You just put an idler on it. Now the chain goes on the sprocket, and the disc brake goes in the caliper, and the quick release goes in the slot, just like any old bike with a derailleur, basically. Any disc brake bike with a derailleur. Okay, the chain, the derailleur got moved, and there, that'll free up the chain. The derailleur levers get moved while it's being handled, and then it doesn't move freely. There we go. Now the wheel is in the quick release. Push down on it, make sure it's all the way in the slot. Tighten the quick release. Now let's do a front wheel. Before I do the front wheel, I think I'll put the steering linkage on. And the small end, the non-adjustable end goes to the front. So I'll start up here. You can see you just pull this back to expose the hole, and then it slides forward with a spring and locks itself. Pretty neat little device. And there you go. Make sure it's locked in place. And we're good. Now, the front wheel. Maybe I'll put the seat on next because the bike will be more prone to falling over once it has two wheels. I didn't bring a kickstand for this one. Should, coulda, woulda. So get for being in a rush heading out of the shop, huh? Just insert the two tubes. And then hook the two hooks on the bottom of the seat. Hook onto the quick release here. And lean it over. Can you see a little better?
There we go.
Is that better?
Mm-hmm.
Just slides in that slot there. And then tighten that quick release. Let me get that adjusted the way I want it. That's about right. And tighten that quick release. Now I've got to put the pins in the corresponding holes here. When I fold the bike, I stick the pins in the in the hole up here so that I don't lose them. But these pins are the only small part that you remove from the bike when you fold it, and they're cheap if you do lose them. But I just stick them in there so I don't lose them. The other thing I do when I'm taking it apart, I pull it out of the seat and out of the seat brace, and I put it in the first available hole, which means when I put it back together, I slide it back till it touches the pins and pull it up to the first available hole, and that's where I had it before. So everything's adjusted where it was before. And now the front wheel, and I'm ready to ride. Get mud off
Take the clod of grass off.
Yeah, yeah. And then you have to readjust the quick release like you do with any bicycle that complies with modern law. And there we are, ready to ride. Now the seat, this seat needs to be adjusted to fit somebody and tightened up. So, now the question is, what tools did it take to assemble the bike? None. If you want to adjust the bike to fit you, it takes a couple Allen wrenches. So this is everything it takes to assemble and adjust a linear bike to fit you. So there are two options on this bike. First is the folding pedal. That's about, I think it's a $35 option. So if you really want the bike to get a little bit smaller, you can get a folding pedal. When you buy the bike new, it's a $35 option. If you buy the pedals later, they're like $45 or $50 or something like that. And to unfold them, you just push them out and they lock in place. To fold them, you push this button down and they fold. Really simple.
You make sure I understand. You push the button that says push. Is that correct?
Yes, the one that says push. I am pushy that way.
Okay, you push. Okay. Well, that couldn't be much simpler, Peter. Okay.
Limo long wheelbase comes with a V-brake on the front and a steel fork. This one has an aluminum fork and a disc brake, and that's a $100 option.
Okay.
So those are the two options on this bike.
Not bad.
He's got it now.
So here we have a linear roadster ready to unfold and assemble. So zoom in here and I'll show you what I'm doing. First I'll put the steering linkage on. This end attaches to the front, like that. The other end goes to the handlebar, like that, and that's done. Next I'll fold out the rear frame. This one has a kickstand, so it's a little easier to be able to stand it up when you're halfway through. Now the quick release has got to slide into the slot. You see it has a slides down like that and locks in place. And when it's open, you pull it out and hang it in this little notch there. That's so that it doesn't automatically slide back in there when you're trying to fold it. It'll stay in that position a little better, so that turned out to be kind of handy. Next, let's put the rear wheel on. So I'll put the kickstand down, get the wheel here, and the wheel's got to go into the disc. chain goes on the cassette. This goes in there. The wheel slides back and locks in place just like any bike with a derailleur. I usually put it in the smallest rear sprocket, which is the highest gear, just because it makes it easier to put it on and off, and I'm lazy, so I do it that way because I'm so lazy. Now the kickstand is down. If I had level ground, it would stand up, but it's not quite level ground, so I will add a front wheel, which will raise it enough that it will stand in the kickstand nicely. Line up the disc brake. There. And tighten the quick release, and just like any bike that passes current law, you have to readjust the quick release every time. That's a safety feature, but you have to readjust it every time. There we are. Now the bike will stand in a kickstand while I put the seat on. So I'll bring the 2 seat tubes up. I keep just enough tension on these bolts that they will stay where I put them, so it's just a little easier. These guys too, usually that one's just a little bit loose. I like it to have enough friction that it stays where I put it. That's just a little bit loose. There's a nylock nut on it, so you can adjust it, it'll stay there. And you also get the clods of grass off of the seat mount. Very important step, removing clods of grass.
Unless you're in the desert, Peter.
Well, yeah, then it's sand. That's, I hear, even worse. But we'll find out. We'll be in Arizona in a little while, so then we'll know. Seat drops on there in that slot. I don't know if you can see what I'm doing here. This is not what the production seat is. The other seat is the production seat. This is very close to the production seat, but not quite. There it is, drops down in the slot, and lock it in place, and we're ready to ride. We've had a lot of fun getting this design worked out, and we're really proud to be at the end of that process. And the black one over there is the culmination.